Hello, this is student loan debt. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. Some people, eager for money, have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. 1 Timothy 6:10. The average student loan debt by age group. The numbers are quite astonishing. Those who are 24 and younger owe about $14,000. This is because this age group simply did not yet have enough time to accumulate as much debt as older age groups. Those who are 25 to 34 owe over $33,000. 35 to 49, over $43,000. 50 to 61, $45,000. And those who are older than 62, $41,000 approximately. By the way, studies have been done on seniors who actually owe student loans. Most of them owe it for their own education and not the education of their children that they take out the money to pay for, nor for the co-signed loans on their children's student debt. It's mostly their own financial obligations for their own education. You can see a bar chart here depicting how student loan debt is distributed by age group. What about the total burden? In the third quarter of 2022, at $1,777 million, Americans collectively owed more student loan debt than the gross domestic product of most countries on earth. In the first quarter of 2023, the total number of student borrowers reached 43.6 million and total debt of over 1.78 trillion. That's $1,780 million. Student loan debt has increased dramatically. In the first quarter of 2006, there was roughly $481 billion in student loan debt. As you have just heard, there was roughly $1.78 trillion by the first quarter of 2023. So in 17 years, the debt has increased by approximately $1.3 trillion. That's the average increase of over $76.5 billion per year. Not even the Obama presidency, with its hope and change and trying to distribute wealth around, as Barack Obama once said, and not Trump administration and not Biden administration have been able to stop the continuous rise of student loan debt. Student loan debt is very difficult to recover fully because what you pay for is knowledge in your head and skills in your head and in your body. So this is not recoverable. In contrast, if you have a mortgage or an auto loan, your creditor can recover those. Your house is not going to grow legs and run away. And besides, the most valuable thing is the land anyway, and not the house that it sits on, in most cases. So what happens is you have effectively a collateral if you have a mortgage. If you have a car loan, you also have a collateral, and they can repossess your car. Knowledge in your head cannot be repossessed. The federal government owns approximately 93% of all student loan debt, while private investors own the remaining 7%. So when students or former students can no longer repay their loans, guess who's on the hook? Well, that's the taxpayers, because almost all of the outstanding balances, 93%, are owned by the federal government. In the meantime, universities as institutions are doing great. One of the indicators is how much they can afford to pay their CEOs, their presidents. President pay has been a matter of controversy for years, but the government has no will at any level, state or federal, to do anything about it. The governments at both levels, state and federal, have vast authority in regulating commerce. So the national government could intervene. based on its authority in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3 to regulate interstate commerce and to try to address this issue, but nobody has the will to do it. Stephen Klasko in 2020 was the highest paid president of Thomas Jefferson University. This is a private nonprofit university. Klasko's salary was almost $8.5 million a year. Second was Charles Monahan from MCPHS University with almost $4.5 million annual compensation. Then you had Shirley Ann Jackson of Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, $4.2 million annual compensation. Stephen H. Kaplan of University of New Haven, $3.7 million annual compensation. And Jerry Falwell in the fifth place of Liberty University at $3.5 million annual compensation. So don't shed a tear for university presidents. They're well compensated. University endowments. A university endowment is a collection of assets donated to a university or college and designed to support its educational mission indefinitely. Endowments are typically made up of a variety of assets, including money, stocks, bonds, including corporate bonds, and real estate. These assets are invested, and the returns of these investments are used for various purposes. The primary purpose of an endowment is to provide a stable source of income to the university. Only a portion of the annual income from the investment is spent, while the rest, listen to this, is reinvested to ensure that the endowment can continue to support the university indefinitely. Okay? So only a portion is spent each year. The rest is reinvested to generate even more money for the university. Keep in mind, these are 501c3 entities. They pay no income tax. They can accept charitable contributions, and these contributions are tax deductible, which of course encourages giving. So you see how politics enters the economics of higher education here? The federal government says you are 501c3 entities. You don't have to pay income taxes. And the contributions that donors give you are deductible on their taxes to the donors. So of course people will donate because they know the contributions are tax deductible. So in fact, the federal government encourages the growth of university endowments. The endowment tax is, get ready, 1.4%. That's as per Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017. What are the purposes of endowments? First, scholarship and fellowships. They often fund scholarships and fellowships, helping to attract and support talented students, regardless of their financial backgrounds. Second, faculty positions and research. Endowments can fund professorships, research projects, and academic programs, enabling the university to attract and retain high-caliber faculty and to pursue new areas of study. 3. Facilities and infrastructure. Some of the income may be used for maintaining and improving campus facilities like libraries, laboratories, and lecture halls. 4. Operational costs. Endowments can also contribute to the general operational costs of the university, such as administrative expenses and utility costs. 5. Special programs and initiatives. Universities often use endowment funds to support specific initiatives like community outreach programs, extracurricular activities, and cultural events. Where does the money for endowments come from? First, from donations. Endowments are primarily financed through donations. These can come from alumni, philanthropists, corporations, and other benefactors. 2. Legacy gifts. Many endowments grow through bequests and legacy gifts, where individuals leave a portion of their estate to the university in their will. 3. Fundraising campaigns. Universities often conduct targeted fundraising campaigns to increase their endowment funds. 4. Grants and contributions. Sometimes endowments are also financed through grants from governmental entities or from private organizations. Now here what you can see is the size of endowments in US dollars for major universities. I'm going to read off just the top few, okay? Harvard University leads the pack by far with almost $50 billion in endowments. In number 2 spot, we've got University of Texas System with over $42 billion endowment. So Harvard University, one single university, by the way, the oldest one in the United States, that one university has an endowment which is substantially greater than the endowment of all universities in the University of Texas system. In the 3rd spot, we've got Yale University with over $41 million in endowments. By the way, these numbers are all for fiscal year 2022. Stanford University, over $36 million in endowment. MIT, $25 million billion in endowment. And the Texas A&M University System and related foundations, over $18 billion in endowment. So the more prestigious the university, the more likely it is to have a significant endowment. But even universities that are not incredibly prestigious, even the ones that you might never have heard about, some of them too have an endowment of over $1 billion. So if you were to look at the top 40 endowments, then in the 40th place, last place on the top 40 list, is Boston College with $3.3 billion endowment. That's quite a number. So universities are doing well. Students who have borrowed to attend them, less so. Now, despite the population becoming increasingly more educated, what we have is labor shortages in the majority of states. This is as of the end of 2023 in the United States. So if you look at the number of states with clear labor shortages, you have the vast majority of them in that category. 33 states out of 50 have unemployment rate of 3.5 or lower. The lowest unemployment registered in October of 2023 was in the state of Maryland with 1.7%, and in second place, North Dakota with 1.9%. So full employment in the United States is approximately 4 to 5% unemployment rate. What happens when you have 4 to 5% unemployment rate is frictional unemployment. This is when people are legitimately between jobs, those 4 or 5% who are currently unemployed. The rest, those who want to have jobs, they have jobs. So if you have an employment rate that's below 4%, that signals labor shortages, and below 3%, severe labor shortages. So you have labor shortages of various kinds in the 33 out of 50 states at least. So we are training people in colleges and universities, educating them for something, and then jobs go unfilled. By the way, even in the bottom couple of states, California, 4.8% unemployment rate, and Nevada, 5.4%, what you have is still relatively low unemployment rate, just about full employment. Nevada has been in last place for a very long time, for years now. So it's tracking close to California because so many Californians are visitors to Nevada's resorts in Las Vegas and in Reno. So, and of course, tourism and hospitality is bread and butter of Nevada's economy. So Nevada is in last place with unemployment rate of almost 5.5 percentage points. But still, by historical standards, that's pretty good. So if you look at unemployment rate in the United States over the last 30 years or so, by level of education, you will see that those who have more education have a lower unemployment rate. Uh, and so that would speak positively. If you were to look just at this chart, you would see that speaks positively for those with a lot of education. The gap is particularly pronounced if you compare the extremes. On one extreme, those who have bachelor's degree or higher, and on the other extreme, those who do not have a high school diploma. So if you look at 2022, those who do not have a high school diploma have an unemployment rate of about 5.5%, and those who have a bachelor's degree or higher, unemployment rate of about 2%. However, the issue is not just the sheer unemployment numbers or the gap in unemployment rates between people of various levels of education. The real question, I think, is whether or not you have a job that is commensurate with the number of years that you went to school and the number of dollars that you have borrowed to get your degree. So if you look at the data in the United States, you will see that for the people who are older than 25 years, all people who are older than 25, almost 90% of them have a high school diploma or a GED. But only 35% have a bachelor's degree. Only 13% have a master's degree. 3.5% have a professional degree. And approximately 2% have a doctorate. So the number of highly educated people is very significant because if you add those with degrees, that will amount to a very, very high number in the millions of people, those who have at least a bachelor's degree. The problem is, of course, that sometimes the education level does not match the expected income. And a lot of people are forced to abandon the profession they were trained for and settle for a different line of work, sometimes taking menial jobs in order to pay their bills. So education does not always pay. It's an important thing to keep in mind. There's a difference between being employed in the profession you trained for, and being employed in the profession you trained for while also being well paid. So even South Park noticed it in the Panderverse episode. Young people don't know how to do stuff anymore. We have created a vast educated class, highly educated class, that has no idea how to do things with its hands, how to fix things, how to fix, for example, an oven door or a garage door or anything. So while certain professions are oversaturated, when it actually comes to traditionally lower paying so-called blue-collar jobs, many of those go unfilled. Of course, if you watched Dirty Jobs with Mike Rowe, I think, on Fox News, that's been covered for years. So this is not a recent trend at all. I think right now this trend is highlighted more than ever before because the student loan debt is so much in the news, more than ever before. And in this context, this mismatch between jobs that are available and the high levels of education that people have been receiving is so much more stark. As of recent data, the academic workforce in the United States has seen a significant shift in contingent adjunct appointments. Now we're looking at a subgroup of highly educated people, and that's academics. That's typically people with PhDs. To get a full-time job as an academic in a college or university in the United States, you really have to have a PhD, even though the legal requirement may say a master's degree. It's increasingly very, very difficult to get a full-time job just with a master's degree. So in 2021, about 2/3 of all faculty members in the United States held contingent appointments. It's a stark increase from less than half in 1987. So 2 out of 3 of college instructors, lecturers, professors, call them whatever you want, are are not on a tenure track, will not get tenure, and they are adjuncts. They work part-time. Typically, they work 2 or 3 jobs to scrape a very modest to meager living. And some have to go on public assistance and qualify for things like Medicaid, because otherwise they could not make the ends meet, and otherwise they could end up homeless. They would not be able to pay their rent if they also had to pay for their own health insurance out of pocket and all of their other expense out of pocket. So it's not unusual for adjuncts to actually also be on public assistance. So many highly educated people, because of this, who reach their 30s and 40s, must make an agonizing decision between sticking with their profession while living in poverty and hoping for the best, meaning hoping for the opportunity, hoping for the break that will probably never come, and giving up on their chosen profession and decades of training and part-time employment to take a better paying, though sometimes menial job that has nothing to do with the profession that they trained for. And the way that this is relevant, of course, to the subject of student debt is because many of these people have also taken out student loans to pay for education, to get a profession which they're unable to practice, except maybe now and then as adjuncts at poverty levels. Do you get it? So as a student who's trying to decide which profession to take, it's very important to keep looking at the job market early and often to make sure that the job that you're trying to get is likely to be there a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now. So the government may not fully protect you, in fact, will not fully protect you from rash financial decisions. If you decide to spend $50,000 a year on college education, take out a loan and you qualify, and they give you this loan and you're taking it with the hope to repay it someday over a period of decades because you think that you will be reaping some financial windfall, this may not be the wisest decision. So how can you protect yourself from overspending on higher education? If you do not have full scholarship to a four-year university, consider community college. Community colleges are much cheaper, and they tend to have smaller classes and better teachers. Professors in community colleges are hired specifically to teach. Professors at universities are hired to do research, and research typically comes in second. And if it's a PhD grant in university, then teaching comes very distant second. So you should be aware of that. Work part-time or full-time while going to college, that's another possibility. It does stretch the length of time in which you get your degree, but it may be worth it to avoid getting deep into debt. Look for classes that do not require multiple very expensive textbooks. Open sources can now provide very good quality information, even if they require you to do some digging on your own. So an occasional textbook still makes sense now and then. But if you're a student who has to spend $1,000 per semester on textbooks alone, that can add up very quickly. Ask yourself why you need or want higher education at this particular time in your life. If it's just learning something, if you're not trying to convert it into a job opportunity, learning for the sake of learning was difficult before the 21st century. It's not today, because there are websites, there are organizations, companies that for a little cost can serve as a source of learning. And I left here in this video some names for those as a resource to you. So there are always options. College and university education is still important. It will remain important for a long time into the future. But students, their parents, and of course governments at all levels have to start taking more considered, more critical thinking towards the issue of debt versus education. And so far, this hasn't happened on the government side. The federal government continues to act as it always has in this area, which is to throw money at the problem. And this is how Congress and President typically work anyway. What problem do we have? Oh, we have problem A. We know what the solution to this problem is. Throw money at it. Money will solve everything. Well, it won't. Money is a lot, but it also won't solve any problem. And when it comes to letting students and their parents to borrow any which way in huge amounts to get an education that will not match the requirement of the job markets in the future, then throwing money at the problem is not the solution. It is just another problem. Thank you.